What's up, everybody? It's me, your favorite little boy in the whole wide world, Ren with 2 N's, and it's about time for the annual Best and Worst Games of the Year video, the 1 week late edition. Now, I want to use videos like this one to talk about games that I played over the year, but just couldn't quite get around to making a video about for various reasons. So I'm only going to be focusing on games that I didn't already talk about yet, so that I don't repeat myself. So let's just fly head on into the video and talk about my first pick for the worst game of 2018. You might think I'm a Dumbo for saying what I'm about to say, but I absolutely loved Just Cause 3. So naturally, I was really excited for Just Cause 4. So much so that I actually bought this game 3 days before it came out. And then 2 days later, Square Enix was kind enough to send me a review code. Because of that, I was able to cancel my pre-order and get my money back. Thank God for that. Now, I'm sure Square Enix wants me to say something nice about their game, since they did give it to me for free after all, which don't get me wrong, I really appreciate that. But lying to you guys about their game isn't gonna help anybody. So I will give them this. The physics of the game are pretty awesome. It makes goofing around with boosters and grapples fun in short little 10-minute bursts. The explosions in this game are nothing short of glorious. Some of the weapons are amazing as well.
Oh.
And the game looks pretty decent for having been made by a small team of 100 people. But the only reason I know that is because when they emailed me the review code for this game, they also sent me this little press release packet, which had extensive details about multiple features of the game. And I'll talk more about this later, because I found something in that packet very interesting that I want to share with you guys. Now, while the physics are cool and the explosions are awesome, there's no game to back any of that up. Just Cause 4 is all bones and no meat, like my dog, or an Auschwitz kid. What I've shown you so far is pretty much all there is to see. You can be very creative in how you decide to destroy an enemy base, but all that creativity doesn't mean squat, when the game itself is just far too easy. There's no difficulty selection either. The enemies basically just sit back and let you have your way with them, like a Cosby victim or something. The AI is absolutely horrendous too. The mission design is also just so terrible. And there's only a handful of missions that this game has that it forces you to do over and over again. First up, you got your classic escort mission, right? Thank God they completely reworked the AI for this game, otherwise these missions would be insufferable. There's also some missions where you have to protect some satellite dishes, and these missions are actually pretty great if you have some chores to do around the house, because you don't actually need to bother playing this mission, since you can literally just go really far away from the satellites so that the enemies don't spawn near them, and just hang out for a few minutes and make a sandwich or do your laundry until the mission completes itself. Then there's these missions where you're supposed to drive a car or something from point A to point B. It's pretty self-explanatory stuff, but of course most of the vehicles in this game handle like absolute trash. Then there's some on-rails missions that are just so generic, and so by the books, that there's really just not anything to say about them. And then my personal favorite missions are the ones where you're supposed to go to a specific zone, which is designated by this green box, and somewhere within that box is a generator where you need to flip the switch on it or destroy it. But you're never told exactly where that generator is. The game just gives you a general area that you need to search, and that's it. So you might spend upwards of 5 minutes just grappling and parachuting around in the hopes that you find that generator and flip the switch. Whoever designed these missions is seriously one twisted bastard. And to top it all off, the game has no sense of progression. One of the things I loved about Just Cause 3 were those fun side missions. They would put you into some pretty interesting scenarios. Like there was one where it just gave you a turret, and you had to use that turret to destroy as much stuff as you could within a certain amount of time. Other challenges would have you wingsuiting through these circles, which took you through some somewhat challenging routes, and you'd get extra points for flying closer to the center of the circles as well. Now, I'm typically not a fan of side missions, since at times they can really just feel like they're padding the game out, but I genuinely really enjoyed Just Cause 3's. And if you completed them with a high enough score, you would unlock abilities for Rico. So not only were you having fun, but you were also progressing your character, and a lot of those abilities had a lot of utility. And Just Cause 4 starts you off with almost every single ability that you ended Just Cause 3 with. And as a result, the game just doesn't have very many places left to go. There are a few new abilities you can unlock, but you really don't need them since you're already so overpowered. So you never get the feeling that you're progressing. There are side activities in this game, but why go through all the effort of completing them just to unlock some ability that you're never going to use? Like, seriously, who enjoys doing these? These side missions have you doing things like getting a tuk-tuk and driving that tuk-tuk through a ring. And let me tell you something. I am sick and tired of TukTuk. It's my least favorite app on the App Store. It's got that creepy bald pedophile on there, and I hate pedophiles. And what do you get for driving that tuk-tuk through the ring? Well, you just get the ability to call down a tuk-tuk whenever and wherever you feel like it. I don't know why you'd want to. It's probably the most worthless vehicle in the game, but hey, there you go. There's another side activity that allows you to fly through rings, but it couldn't be any more basic. It stripped out what little depth Just Cause 3's challenges had. These events almost feel unfinished because they're that poorly thought out. But credit where credit's due, I really like the weather system. There are these massive sandstorms that affect all of the physical objects in the game world in really cool ways. And there's even tornadoes which act just like they would in real life. The tornado picks up a bunch of stuff and hurls it around. It's a real physical simulation that completely alters the gameplay. And I was so excited to see these tornadoes in action. They were all over the marketing for the game, and I thought that the idea of using a tornado as a gameplay mechanic just sounded so neat. I don't think that's ever been done before. It's one of the main reasons I bought this game. And during my 15 hours playing it, I only ever saw 2 tornadoes, and one of them was part of a main mission. Now granted, it was a pretty cool mission, but it was still pretty underwhelming. The tornadoes appear so rarely, and they don't really add much to the overall experience. They're just kind of there. The development team put so many cool little things into this game, but they clearly had no idea what to do with them. And as a result, it's just so boring to play. And before I move on to the next game, like I said earlier, I wanted to talk to you about something that I found to be very interesting. Now, I probably shouldn't show you guys this, but I didn't sign any NDAs or anything, so I think I'm okay. But in that press release packet that Square Enix sent me, they had an entire page dedicated to showing me exactly where 2 Easter eggs were located on the in-game map. Now you might be thinking, why would they do that? Why would they spoil the Easter egg for you? Well, I'll tell you why. Next time you see a video like the one I'm showing you footage of right now, which just so happened to be published the same exact day the game came out, there's a good chance that the developers just showed that YouTuber exactly where the Easter egg was located, knowing full well that the YouTuber would make a video about it and give that developer some free marketing for their game. I thought that was really interesting, and it's actually a pretty smart move when you think about it. But let's move on. Now, I will be spoiling this game, so if you haven't played it yet, go ahead and skip to this point in the video. And now that you've been warned, I gotta say, God of War was pretty good. I enjoyed the combat for the most part, and I got some enjoyment out of the game's set pieces. If I had to give God of War a score, I'd probably slap it with a 7 out of 10. And yes, I know God of War won Game of the Year, but just because Jeff Keighley gave this game the crown doesn't mean it's flawless. It's got a lot of issues. First off, while the combat is fun, it didn't have nearly as much depth as the first 3 God of War games did. There weren't very many combos to pull off, and watching the same animation over and over again got real tiring real fast. And secondly, while the set pieces were kind of neat the first time through the game, there's only just a small handful of them, and I feel like they're all devoid of any tension because Kratos is practically invincible. Part of what makes the Uncharted set pieces so great is the fact that Nathan Drake is just more or less a regular guy. But once you see a man get punched 100 feet up into the air, I'd land on his side and get right back up again, you kinda stop worrying about him dying. Same goes for the kid, since he's half god and half giant. And I wanted so much more spectacle out of these set pieces. The developers had so much to work with, but didn't really do much with what they had. So for example, the first time I saw the World Serpent, I wanted to see one of two things happen. I wanted to either fight the World Serpent, because that would have been an incredible boss fight, or I thought it would have been equally awesome to see that thing fight something else of equal size. And at the end of the day, all we got was this.
Well done, boy.
Now, is it a cool scene? Yeah, it's okay, but it's just so anticlimactic. Imagine the World Serpent fighting Thor for like 5 minutes as you and Baldur are fighting underneath them. And the World Serpent's getting tossed around and the arena is shifting as a result, the ground is crumbling beneath you, and eventually the World Serpent wraps itself around Thor's legs and causes his body to tumble over. Then he bites off Thor's head and spits it out before slithering off and going back to wherever he was. I think something like that would have been awesome, because the God of War games always had these huge boss battles that were epic in scale. God of War 3 had you fighting bosses like Kronos, whittling away at him by tearing off his freaking fingernails. The scale of it was epic, and God of War 3 had so many huge battles like this one, which is why I was expecting so much more of that from this game. And thirdly, I thought that the characters and story were pretty weak. First off, the story was very predictable. You know exactly where the story's gonna go, and you know exactly what arcs the characters are gonna have. And actually, after this game came out, I was so close to making a full-on review of it. I even wrote up an entire rough draft for a script, but at the time, I guess I didn't feel very attached to it, so I scrapped it and I moved on. But I wish I hadn't, because reading through that script again after all this time, I think it's actually pretty solid. I honestly have no idea what the hell I was thinking when I scrapped this video. So I'm gonna paraphrase my old script here, but I didn't find either of the two main characters to be likable. Kratos hardly ever spoke, and when he did, it was just usually some very short, one-worded answers. He had no charm or charisma, which doesn't make for a great main character in a 40-hour-long, story-driven, character-focused game. And I found it nearly impossible to become emotionally invested in the kid. And you guys know me, I love little kids. But the problem is, Atreus is exactly that. A little kid. I don't want to spend time in real life with a little kid, and I certainly don't want to spend my time with one in a video game. Atreus is annoying and kinda stupid.
There's the mountain! Let's go!
Not yet.
It's fine! See?
Idiot.
More Draugr. But these aren't moving. Are they dead? I mean, more dead?
Boy.
Not dead, not dead!
If I were that kid's dad, I'd rub his stupid little punk face right in his mother's ashes. And I get that moments like these exist to show us how far Atreus has come by the end of the game. You know, to give us a little sense of character growth. But these moments are just too on the nose. It was so obvious what the writers wanted us to get out of these moments, to the point where it just seemed transparent and amateuristic. They made Atreus dumber than the stupid little kid at Niagara Falls in Superman 2.
We can't get over there because...
Hey, Mom! Look! Uh-huh. Yeah, honey, that's nice. Oh my God! Way to go, Superman!
And it also felt like the story itself was padded out beyond belief. The main goal of the story was to get to the top of the highest mountain in the land so that you can spread Kratos' wife's ashes up there, which is what she wanted him to do. And near the beginning of the game, you see the mountain that you need to get to, but the game constantly throws obstacles at you that seem like they only exist to elongate the game. So follow my logic here, I think you'll see what I mean. Once you do get to the mountain, you can't climb up it yet because there's some evil black smoke that's blocking your path. So now you gotta go get the magical device that gets rid of the smoke, so you do that. Then you finally get to the top of the mountain, and whoops! Turns out this is the wrong mountain. The real mountain is in another dimension. So now we gotta go revive some guy so that we can open a portal to get to the other dimension. But wait, hang on a second. Now we gotta go get a chisel to get through this door. But of course the chisel is stuck underneath all of this ice. So we break the ice, get the chisel, and oh my goodness, now the kid is getting sick. So to fix him up, we gotta go to hell and get a demon's heart to heal the kid. Okay, great, everybody's in good health. So now we go back up the mountain again for the third time now, and we're finally here. We've got everything we need, so let's finish this thing. Oh wait, now the portal to Jotunheim is being destroyed by fucking Kratos himself. Smooth move, Baldy. Did he honestly have to smash Daniel Faraday into that thing? Why would he do that? This was his only way of getting there. It's just so frustrating, but you see what I mean? They managed to stretch a 4-hour-long premise into a 40-hour-long game. And the solution is simple. Just have us spread the mother's ashes halfway into the story, and after that we gotta deal with something else that Odin is throwing at us. Right? It's a lot better than withholding a bunch of gods and characters for future sequels like this game does. And while I do find all that very frustrating, overall I still enjoyed the game. I would have liked it a whole lot more if I could have skipped the cutscenes, but the combat was fun. And I really liked the leveling system. Being able to tune your playstyle by choosing different runes and abilities to equip was a really nice touch. And I liked the endgame stuff a lot. Trying to get further and further into Niflheim to collect more items or fighting Valkyries, stuff like that gave you something to strive for and feel good about. And if I had paid $60 for this game, I wouldn't have been upset about it. Unlike the next entry on my list. Now I know I harped on Black Ops 4 quite a bit, but despite not even having a campaign, somehow that game has more content than Battlefield 5 does. I sprinted through the entirety of Battlefield 5's campaign on the hardest difficulty in under 5 hours, and it was awful. The entire campaign felt like it was just slapped together with little to no thought. It was just so bland and unmemorable. I used to love this franchise too. Bad Company 2 was such a great game, and I thought that it had a fairly decent campaign, as well as my personal favorite multiplayer in the whole franchise. Almost everything in the environment was destructible, which made each and every match feel different from the last. Bad Company 2 was an absolute hoot, but ever since then, every game in the Battlefield franchise has only gotten worse and worse. I wasn't a huge fan of Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 4 wasn't great either. At the time, it was infamous for its buggy launch, and Battlefield 1 I really felt like it lacked a lot of what made the other Battlefield games special. It simplified everything far too much. But I did think that Battlefield 4 had a pretty neat gimmick with a terrible name. They called it Levolution. You guys remember this thing? Levolution was a feature which allowed you to do something to destroy a massive structure on the map, whether it be a dam or a skyscraper. And some of these things could even change the flow of the map. It was a lot like detonating a huge power play in split second. I really liked Levolution. It led to some really neat moments. But getting back on topic, to be honest with you guys, I haven't played very much of Battlefield 5. I've played the multiplayer for like maybe 5 hours tops, but that's only because I absolutely fucking despise it. If I had the strength or the willpower to give this game 20 or 30 hours, I would have already made a review on it. But every time I boot this game up, I feel nothing but misery, especially when it takes over 20 minutes to connect to the EA servers. But maybe that's a blessing in disguise, because that's 20 minutes that I didn't have to play this game. Battlefield 5 is an insult to the franchise. Apart from being able to build some fortifications, it has nothing new to offer. Honestly, what does this game do to propel the franchise forward? I would argue that it takes the franchise backwards even more than Battlefield 1 did, because apart from a few houses that you can sit in that seem like they were made out of styrofoam, there's almost no destructibility. A franchise of the staple, mind you. And the maps don't really seem to accommodate vehicles really well, which again, were also a staple of the franchise. And when I die, how about you just let me die, instead of forcing me to lay on the ground like some homeless guy that got pushed out of his wheelchair. The map design is god-awful. It has no flow. It just feels like multiple squads are running around aimlessly, because that's exactly what's happening. On top of that, the maps have so much visual clutter. How does a AAA video game studio get the bright idea to make the entire map gray, then overfill it with a bunch of gray garbage, and then make the enemy team wear an all gray outfit. It can make finding your enemy very difficult, especially when they're not moving. Don't believe me? Take a look at this image right here. I'm gonna pause it for you right now, and what I want you to do is find the enemy that is about to kill me. Now, as you can see, I've already taken some damage, meaning that my attacker can clearly see me, but can you see him? I've looked over this clip multiple times, and the only way I was able to find out who killed me was by going through this clip one frame at a time. As you can see, my attacker was only on screen for 7 frames before killing me. Just for reference, there's only 30 frames in a second, and admittedly this isn't a fault of visual clutter, but my point about visual clutter still holds true. What I've just shown you is the fault of some serious netcode issues. The netcode in this game is abysmal. You will take shots at your enemies that will fail to register. You will get shot at through walls, and you will be killed by enemies that can see you before you can see them. The Battlefield 5 experience is nothing short of pissful. Add on to that the fact that this game is janky as all hell. Sometimes it can take you multiple tries just to clamber over a little knee-high object. I don't remember having trouble clambering in the other games. So what's wrong here? What happened? And somehow this game didn't ship with rush mode? Another staple of the franchise? Battlefield 5 does absolutely nothing to live up to the Battlefield name. Now, this game was pretty neat. A very enjoyable experience. It genuinely surprised me, but I didn't love it. It had a couple of issues that set it back a little bit for me, but the combat was a lot of fun, and the story and cutscenes were genuinely good, which was a bit of a shocker, because I was fully expecting to just skip all the cutscenes, much like I wanted to do with God of War. But the acting was great, the writing was solid, and the characters were strong. But like many others, Spider-Man is probably my favorite superhero. So I already came into this game with a little bit of an investment, a little bit of a bias, you know? And while I did really enjoy the combat, after a while it got to be pretty repetitive. And I played the game on the hardest difficulty, but it still felt really easy. I rinsed through it with absolutely no issues at all. But since I last played the game, they did add a harder difficulty mode, so that's nice. That's probably not an issue anymore. I also didn't really find the web swinging to be very fun. I mean, it looks pretty neat, but it's just beyond simplistic. It really just boils down to holding R2 and holding forward. I was able to essentially master the mechanic within just a couple of minutes. And I really could have done without those Mary Jane sections. Those were kinda lame. And I also didn't find the set pieces to be all that great either. They really just didn't do it for me. I felt like they were kinda flat. Another YouTuber by the name of White Light actually made a pretty great video about this game. However, it is an hour and a half long, but I'd recommend that you go check it out because I agreed with pretty much everything he had to say about the game. But apart from that, I really enjoyed Spider-Man, and I recommend that you pick it up and give it a shot. But before I move on to my number 1 picks of the year, I gotta clarify something. Fallout and Red Dead will not be appearing on this list. I did not play Fallout 76 because I knew better. But if I had played it, it probably would have been on the top of my list for worst game of the year. And even though Red Dead Redemption is, objectively speaking, a technical masterpiece, I just didn't find the game to be very fun. Is it a great game? Yes, and I recognize that. But it's really just not for me. So with that being said, let's move on to my number 1 pick for worst game of 2018. Call of Cthulhu is an absolute dud in every sense of the word. You probably haven't even heard of this game. It's a first-person story-driven game with some stealth elements added into it sometimes. It's tough to explain to you exactly what this game is, but if you've played those older Sherlock Holmes games, that's essentially what Call of Cthulhu is, except worse. This game doesn't have one single redeemable quality. It's the type of game that pads itself out by having you search for items on the floor to progress through the story, rather than, you know, actual gameplay or puzzle-solving mechanics. Don't tell me I have to find a crank. Can't take a shortcut down. This is, oh my god! This feels like a relic, man. Fuck! turn it. We're here. Okay, I'm missing something, clearly. Now, this game's making me feel like an idiot. I'm pretty sure I did everything. Okay. If that's the case, the game needs to tell you you don't have everything. Because every other game, you attach like that and you're good. Instead of just giving me the option to leave. So I still need more things? What am I missing and where is it? Does anybody know? Oh, there it is! Good game design.
It should be possible.
Pad out our experience by hiding it. Add on to that the fact that the AI is unfathomably terrible. The art style is positively disgusting, and the voice acting isn't great either. But it's not like the actors really had much to work with, because it really seems like this game was written by somebody who clearly does not understand the English language.
Don't put that beast back in the water, you shysters!
You shysters?
Cops, they can't understand.
What?
Damn stupid idiots.
What's going on? Call of Cthulhu feels unfinished. About half of the interactions in this game don't even have sound effects associated with them, meaning that the game can be dead silent for very long stretches of time. There's no ambient noise, no footsteps, no door opening sounds, nothing. And the cutscenes are just so incredibly bland. They are nearly impossible to sit through. So you look at this game and you probably think that it's just some cheap little indie thing, right? That they probably sell it for like $30 at full price, because that's what I thought too. But I was shocked to find out that they are charging a full $60 for this piece. What a bunch of shysters, am I right? It should be illegal to sell this game for anything over $20. It is far and away the worst game I played all year, and I would highly recommend that you stay as far away from it as possible. This game was a nice surprise. I didn't expect to like it nearly as much as I did, but it's just so well made. It doesn't hold your hand and it lets you figure out stuff all on your own, which is always such a wonderful feeling. There's really not much wrong with the game. The music is fantastic, the art style is pleasant, and I really enjoyed the story. God of War, take a look, because this is how you make a story about getting to the top of a mountain compelling and unique. However, with that said, I do think that some of the storytelling elements were a little bit too on the nose, but besides that, the game does a really good job of dealing with big boy themes. You know, like anxiety, self-obsession, depression, stuff like that. And to my surprise, I actually became somewhat invested in the characters. I liked all of them in their own way, and I didn't want to put the game down until I beat it. I was hooked. It was like a disease, or a Celeste TD, if you will. They managed to take a few simple little mechanics, like running, jumping, and dashing, and made each of those mechanics feel fun and fresh with each new level. It's really impressive how far they were able to stretch such a simplistic idea. And the game is actually a bit of a challenge, because I'm so sick of easy games. It's nice to have to work for something again, you know? Almost everything about the game is pretty great. You can really tell that the people that made this game poured everything they had into it, which is always something I appreciate in a video game. And I really don't have a hell of a lot more to say about Celeste, other than that it's good. And I liked it a lot. Celeste is the best, I guess. And that's about it. As I said earlier, I wanted to use this video to talk about games that I haven't talked about yet. So right now I'm going to put up my official best and worst games of 2018 up on the screen for you guys to see, just in case anybody's curious. But overall, in terms of video games, I thought this year was just pretty mediocre. Monster Hunter World is a great game too, but it's just another one of those things that's really just not for me. Inversely though, I did feel like this year was a pretty damn great year for movies. I'll pop up my favorite movies of the year right now, just for the hell of it. But that also briefly leads into something that I want to talk about. For 2019, I'm thinking I want to do some more movie reviews. This channel would still mainly focus on video games, but would have just a little bit more emphasis on movies. So let me know if you guys want more movie reviews down in the comments. But regardless, the next video I am making will be about a movie. As for which movie, you'll just have to wait and see. But that video might take a little while to come out, since I got a lot going on right now. About a month ago, I found a tumor on the back of my dog's tongue, and they did a biopsy on it, and it turns out that it's a very cancerous tumor. She's more than likely going to get lung cancer if she doesn't have it already, and the vet told us that Tasha probably has somewhere between 3 and 9 months left to live. Right now, she's doing really well. She seems normal, but it's only a matter of time before she starts showing symptoms. And you know, there's some other stuff going on too, but there's always something going on in somebody's life, right? So if videos aren't coming out as frequently as you think they should be, or I don't reply to a message that you've sent me or whatever, it's probably because I'm dealing with something. So please just try and be patient with me. And I don't want your sympathy or anything like that. I'm telling you this purely for informational purposes. But apart from all that crap, 2018 was a really solid year. I lost a little bit of weight thanks to the keto diet. My subscriber count nearly tripled. Thanks for that, by the way. I became the god of video games.
You can actually destroy them.
I could destroy
You
them.
can be like the God of War, like the Rad Brad. The God of War, you know that game that he's got going on?
Yeah.
You can be the God of video games.
I am. I think
You
I already.
are.
Yeah.
You're definitely the God of video games.
Thank you so much. And I made a video that inspired Reykjavik to create a video of his own, which I gotta admit, pretty cool, kind of flattering. But it also means that Reykjavik is pretty much the Carlos Mencia of video game reviewers. And lastly, I really want to thank you guys for being so supportive of me. In that video I made where I called a phone sex worker, I said this: the dislikes have surpassed the likes, and that means this video isn't getting fed to people's recommendation boxes anymore, and that sucks. And after some of you saw that, you went back and retroactively liked the video. And since then, the video's gotten back into people's recommended feeds, and it's helped my channel grow. I wasn't expecting you guys to do that, but I was really touched that you did. It really meant a lot to me. And it just goes to show you how much that like button actually matters. There's a reason other YouTubers out there ask you to smash it. But thank you guys again, because 2018 was probably one of the best years of my life. And that's all thanks to you guys. And I don't know what else to say, really. I think that's it. So, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.